This is the second installment of the Basic Income Works series. If you haven't seen the first episode, I recommend you go back and watch that, but you're probably here because you did watch that, and now you're on to the second, so thank you for coming back. I'll do a quick recap, and then we'll move on into a really important question that a lot of people have about how basic income works. Basic income experiments are happening all over the world right now, especially in the United States. People like me are getting $500 to $1,500 a month with no strings attached. In this video series, I'm using my skills as a digital media and television producer to answer the question, does basic income work? When you start having conversations with people about basic income, one of the top questions you will encounter is this: if we start giving people all this money, will they know how to manage it? Well, let's find out. If you watched the first video, you know that I used my basic income to invest in my career by upgrading the tools that I use at work, like my laptop, my cell phone. I also use my basic income on important things like preventative care for dental, aka going to the dentist, and other things like, going to the farmer's market. And I'm sure other people are using it the same way, but you don't know until you ask. So I asked.
You never know what type of stress is until it's no longer a stress. I don't even know how to describe that. Like, it was certain things that I just was like, oh, we don't have to think about that anymore, and it's just nice. It's nice between the diapers and the wipes, not having to worry about that, not having to worry about, okay, we're running low on milk, when is the next time, are you going to get paid in order for us to get milk? It's a blessing to not have to worry, it's a blessing to not have to, put that stress, having two boys under, my littlest one is gonna be 11 months and my oldest is 4. So there would, there's certain times where we had to take a cab to certain doctor's appointments, we didn't have to worry about that. Health is wealth. We're able to do the therapy sessions, thank God. We're able to, just come up for air.
It's kind of obvious, people are just using the money to meet their basic needs, and that makes a lot of sense. And to elaborate, there actually was a basic income experiment right here out of Stockton, California. That's in Northern California. And they found that people spend their extra money mostly on food and then covering their household needs. So no one seems to be struggling to spend their money. It seems like they kind of know exactly what to do with it when they get it. So why then does this seem to be the single most asked question about basic income? And I think it's because we assume, and this is a logical assumption and it would make sense, but it's not true. If people don't have money, it must be because they don't know how to manage it. If people are living in poverty, it must be because they just don't know what to do with money when they get it. But it's actually a myth. And I'm going to debunk that for you right now. Most of us have a support network. I know that if something catastrophic were to happen to me today that would affect my finances, I know who I could call on to help me out. I know I have my family. I know I have an incredible group of friends all over the world. I know that there are people that would have my back. I know that if I started to GoFundMe, people would help me out. I know that somehow I would get taken care of. And so I want you to think about the people in your life who would have your back. They might be your family, they might be your friends, they might be coworkers or people that you know in a community setting. And I want you to imagine all of the safety nets that you have should you fall down in a catastrophic way, that they're gone. That you didn't have that family. That your friends, while they love you, they don't have the financial resources to support you. And I want you to understand that that is poverty. And if there's one thing that resonates with you as you're watching this, I hope it is what I am about to say next. Poverty can be a trap that is inherited generation to generation by the same mechanism that wealth is inherited generation to generation. In fact, one of the best ways to know if a child will end up poor is to just ask, well, did they grow up poor? Harvard professor Raj Shetty studies how your zip code determines your financial future. And what he learned is this: when families move out of poor neighborhoods, the kids usually start performing better in school. And as adults, each year they spend in a wealthier zip code leads to higher and higher income.
Where I live, is not the best place. Let's just say it is all of us in one room at the moment. And that's not my proudest moment. I don't really like talking about my 1-bedroom house right now. We gotta get out of here. This is not it.
So I think the actual logical conclusion is that people don't struggle to know what to do with resources, is that they struggle to even have resources to begin with. Starting off with fewer resources sets you up to having fewer resources in the future. The higher costs associated with buying in small quantities because you can't buy more at once, that adds up to be a poverty tax. And let's not even get into what happens with overdraft fees, late fees, higher interest rates on debt, and all the other ways that people become trapped in poverty for generations. As we stand right now, once you fall down financially in America, it can be almost impossible to get back up without support.
I think the one thing that I'm just like gleaming about is that I can be out of debt because of this. It was like 3,000 something, so I'm able to just pay that off. You know, it's good. It's good when you pay your bills on time because your credit score. I want to be able to get my credit score to a certain amount. So when I do graduate and it is just us, then we have a platform to be on. And if we keep like not paying bills on time, not saving money, what are you going to do? They're going to look at you like, your credit score is horrible. Like, we can't accept this. This isn't a long-term thing. I want to be able to get a house. I want to be able to make sure my boys are good, you know?
But what if they had that support? What if the people whose safety net that love them but simply cannot support them financially had a basic income with which they could support themselves and maybe support each other if the time came?
I want to be able to make sure that my sons are okay. Having a part-time gigs or getting fly-by-night gigs or, you know, Amazon here or working over there, it's not stable and it's not reliable. And I'm not doing that to them. I'm not doing that to them, you know, where they don't have that concrete net. They don't have that for sure. Like, I'm trying my best. I really am.
The vast majority of basic income is spent on pretty boring things like food, rent, household supplies, debt, healthcare. Those all make a lot of sense. And I can say for myself, I've definitely been in those positions where I wasn't quite sure how I was going to pay rent the following month. And I can tell you if I got an extra $500 to $1,500, I wouldn't be blowing it on buying a new pair of Nikes. I would definitely be taking that money and relieving myself of the burden of the debt, of the rent, of whatever bills I had coming my way. And I think that is true for the vast majority of the population. But do people take their basic income and spend it on things like entertainment, like going to the movies or getting their nails done or buying something nice for themselves? Yeah, they definitely do, and they should. Because self-care is a form of mental health care. It's a form of self-love, and everybody needs that. Everyone deserves the autonomy to take care of themselves. And so, yeah, of course they're going to spend some money on things that give them joy. And we all deserve that. Which brings us to a really important question that I think is actually the most common question people have, but maybe are too afraid to say it. And it's a question that I have too. And that is, what happens when you give basic income to people who are struggling with addiction? Addiction to alcohol, drugs, gambling, or any other type of addiction that exists. Will you be enabling their illness? Will you be contributing to something that hurts them? And how will they know what to do with their money when they're in the throes of addiction? I think it's a valid question, and I think there's a lot of care in that question too. And I'm going to do the research and we're going to find the answer. So that's coming up later in the series. If you learned something in this video and you'd like to see more, just subscribe. I've got more coming. Be well, and I'm going to leave you with this.
Another question that we get all the time, which is, well, if you give poor people money, they won't know what to do with it.
Said no poor person ever.
We have to ask. We have to ask.